It was 25 years ago, Cartoon Network debuted their sixth original cartoon, Ed, Edd, and Eddy. Running from 1999 to 2009, the show was about three friends with the same name as they scammed the neighborhood kids out of their money for the pursuit of jawbreakers. The show was a hit for the channel and gained a huge following during and after its run, with the success of the show spawning several home media releases, comics, books, t-shirts, and several video games. It's definitely one of my all-time favorite cartoons, never missed an episode growing up. Even as an animator myself, the show has made a noticeable impact on me and the work I do. So, I want to pay tribute to this timeless gem from the best place for cartoons. Now let's not waste any time, let's get started. The best place to start is at the beginning. Series creator Danny Antonucci was a huge fan of animation. Growing up, he was fascinated by cartoons from Max Fleischer, Warner Brothers, and Tex Avery, who would become a major influence on him. I drew at an early age and was always amazed by animation. I thought, how did they make the drawings move like that? There was a weekend course in animation at my high school. I took it and made my first film called The Adventures of Barfman. I was only 14 years old then, but I knew right then and there what I'd be doing for the rest of my life. He attended the Sheridan College of Visual Arts, but would drop out when he was offered a job at Canimage Animation, a Toronto-based subhouse studio for Hanna-Barbera. He worked as an animator on shows such as The Flintstone Comedy Show, Smurfs, Richie Rich, and Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. On The Flintstone Comedy Show, he got to work on a Cave Mouse character created by Tex Avery, who was working at HB during his twilight years. Danny wanted to move to Los Angeles to find more work, but he ended up staying in Vancouver, British Columbia, where he would soon get a job at International Rocket Ship Limited, who were known at the time for their short films and commercials. Danny worked as the lead animator for shorts such as Anima Jam and Hooray for Sandbox Land, while continuing to freelance as an assistant animator for animated films such as The Chipmunk Adventure. While at International, he would create his own short, Lupo the Butcher, about an ill-tempered butcher shouting obscenities as his body falls as he's cutting meat. The idea for the short came from Antonucci's frustrations from people viewing animation as kid stuff. And keep in mind, this was the 80s, the era of toy-based commercial cartoons. This was the era of He-Man, Care Bears, Transformers. But the short was wildly popular, especially in the film festival circuit, being shown at Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Festival of Animation. It made Danny a household name, and Lupo would even appear in commercials for Converse and MTV. On April 1st, 1994, Danny's animation studio, aka Cartoon, opened its doors in Vancouver, and the studio would work on many commercials and many bumpers for MTV. One particular bumper featured four grotesque, veiny characters grunting and straining until it was revealed they were shitting out the MTV logo. This caught the eye of executive Abby Turkule. It would lead to The Brothers Grunt, which premiered August 15th, 1994. The show was unsuccessful and was panned by critics, with many criticizing its gross-out humor and visuals. While a noble attempt to capitalize on the success of Beavis and Butthead, it was quickly canceled after 42 episodes. Despite this, Danny was still proud of the show. I still think it's a cool show, and I really enjoyed doing it. For what I wanted to do, I thought it was quite successful. That's the key for me. I really dig what I do, and it's important for me to like what I do. I don't regret anything. I just look at it as something I did and move on. Danny and the team at AKA will continue to work on commercials and even co-develop the animation showcase, Cartoon Sushi. After dabbling in adult animation for so long, Danny was dared to make a children's cartoon. While working on a commercial, he designed three characters. He liked the way they looked and decided to develop them further. The show was pitched to both Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, with Nick wanting more creative control, but Danny refused, and Cartoon Network won out in the end. A deal was made for the show to be made by Danny's aka Cartoon instead of Hanna-Barbera, which at the time produced many of the CN originals. This marked the first CN show to be made by an outside studio, and the first to not be introduced by a world premiere toon / what a cartoon short. Originally, we were going to do that with the first show, which was the pilot, but Cartoon Network loved it so much, they wanted to go for a series. Now we're in cahoots and created a cartoon show, 13 episodes with 2 11-minute segments per half hour. This is a whole different ballgame for me. Probably because of my commercial stuff Every time I approach something, I always deal with it like a new canvas. This is a whole new genre for me, which is basically straight ahead, gag-driven cartoons. Funny enough, this wouldn't be the first time Danny crossed paths with Cartoon Network. He created and animated the Jester character and bumpers for the network's early years. The show was in production as early as 1996, with a total of 13 episodes to initially debut in November 1998, the same month the Powerpuff Girls debuted. But it was pushed back to winter 1999 due to production problems. The show eventually made its debut January 4th, 1999. It's one of those cartoons I distinctly remember watching it the night it premiered.
Into that your own. Hey, everybody! Our show is...
Hey, it's impolite to interrupt.
Interrupt who?
This nice show is giving you credits.
Oh, who cares about their show? Our show is coming on now!
Very nice. I'm sure our new neighbors at Cartoon Network are gonna hate us now.
Hey, they'll be just like our old neighbors.
Ed, and Eddy, coming up next on Cartoon Network.
Around late 1998, I can recall seeing those promos showing the three Eds walking around and chasing the Jawbreaker. If you had the Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island VHS growing up, you might even remember seeing the Eds for the first time in one of the earliest promos.
1 year ago, we embarked upon our most ambitious project to date. This November, we hope to finish it. Ed, and Eddy, coming soon to Cartoon Network.
Season 1 introduces us to the characters and their world, which is a suburb of Peach Creek. The show was based on Danny's experiences growing up, with the three Eds being based on himself, as well as his two sons, with the other cul-de-sac kids being based on people he knew and family members. I always saw the show as Peanuts' rebellious younger brother, and it says that it does capture the essence of being a kid, while also having more of an edge to his writing, humor, and characters. I also think it's clever the show isn't set in a particular time period. Antonucci wanted the show to take place in any decade, which is a good choice to not have it be dated. The art and animation is amazing. The show has a unique design for the characters, which will be modified throughout the series, and towards the end they are even more expressive, and the backgrounds have a UPA-like style to them. Danny had to look at the characters right out of the gate. Notice how the pitch Bible is from 1996, and the show will premiere 3 years later with almost the same design with each character. Let's not forget the show's trademark bowling line style, which Danny used to pay tribute to cartoons of the 30s. It's similar to shows like Dr. Katz, though not quite as aggressive. The show was animated with cells until season 4, the last cartoon to do so, until switching to digital ink and paint for the rest of its run. The colors in the show are great, and they really complement the summer feel in the early episodes. The music and sound design is some of the best of any cartoon during this era. That's Patrick K.R. doing the score, and that's a more 50s jazz feel. The show's iconic theme song, which was whistling performed by Antonucci, was inspired by the Bob Crosby and the Bobcat song, Big Noise for Winnetka. The show also has the most unique sound effects of any CN show. You hear some of these, and you will immediately know where it's from. Let's talk about the characters, starting with the Eds. Ed is the strong, dumb one of the group, who's in the comics and monster B movies, and more often than not, spouts non sequiturs. Loyal to a T, and usually the workhorse of Eddie's scams. He's voiced by Matt Hill, who prior to the series, his most notable voice role was Kevin in Captain N, the Game Master, and the body actor for Raphael in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, and later on doing the voice in Next Mutation. Ed/Double D is a smart one, and the inventor of the group, obsessed with cleanliness and everything to be in order. Identified by his famous black ski hat that earns him the nickname Sockhead by Eddy, with the mystery of what's under it being a running gag in the show. He's voiced by Samuel Vincent, who is already making a name for himself in the voice acting world. Eddy is a self-proclaimed leader of the Eds, and probably my favorite of the trio. He's greedy, self-absorbed, money-hungry, and impulsive. Even if he does mistreat the other Eds sometimes, we know deep down he cares for them. Eddy's the mastermind of all the scams the Eds pull in the cul-de-sac. We can tell he has a passion for business, even more often than not they fail. Eddy is voiced by Tony Sampson, known for his anime dubbing and live action roles. Together, the Eds are a comedy trio, reminiscent of the Three Stooges. What's great about the Eds is their friendship, and the fact that these three boys can be so different yet still be very close is something to admire. Even if they are scamming their peers out of their money, you still can't help but root for them. Personally, I've always loved the outcast characters in shows and movies, because growing up, I could relate to them. The Eds are no exception, and I love how they're written like real kids. They're weird, they're insecure, they're selfish, they can even be insufferable at times, but you still enjoy watching them. Every character in Ed, Edd n Eddy is identifiable, and you either knew or were these characters growing up. And that includes the side characters, like Rolf, an immigrant from the old country who's quite cordial with the Eds, unless they do something to piss him off. Rolf was also based on Danny's experiences growing up as an immigrant and living with different first-generational customs. He also gets some episodes focused on him, like Wish You Were Ed, when he gets homesick, and No Speak to Ed, where he gets PTSD from wolf-related gifts Ed received from his pen pal. Not to mention, aside from Ed, he gets the best lines in the show.
Come thirst of your crime, stale end piece of white bread!
There's Johnny 2x4, a weird loner kid who's never seen without his best friend, a piece of wood named Plank. He's a bit of a nuisance to the other kids at times, and I kinda find it funny that he's in their friend circle, but the Eds aren't. I guess to them it's the lesser of two evils. Ed has a bratty little sister named Sarah, who he's constantly subservient to due to the fear of being punished by their parents, but the lovable oaf still loves his sister. Her best friend Jimmy is shy and meek and very attached to her. A running gag is that he's always getting hurt, kinda like Eugene from Hey Arnold. Jimmy may seem innocent at first, but he has a dark side when pushed too far. Naz is a pretty popular girl who all the guys, sans Jimmy and Rolf, go crazy over. She's kinda one note and probably the least developed of the cast. Kevin is a stereotypical jock who's always referred to the Eds as dorks. He hates the Eds, particularly Eddy, and they both had a bit of a rivalry. It's always funny to see these two huge egos clash. He may be a dick to the Eds, but sometimes he does get his comeuppance. And last, we have the Kicker sisters, three teenage girls from the trailer park who torment the neighborhood kids and have a crush on the Eds. Looking back, their antics, particularly how they force themselves on the Eds, is pretty creepy and just not right, especially if the genders were reversed. Another similarity to Peanuts is the lack of adult characters. No other characters appear except the 12 kids, and when adults do appear, they're either silhouettes or an arm here and there. Well, that takes care of the show's beginnings and the characters. Join me next time for part 2 as we go over the 6 seasons. I'm 47 Cartoon Guy, and I gotta fly.
When we get back from where we are going back where we were. I know people there.
On January 4th, 1999, Ed, Edd n Eddy made his world premiere on Cartoon Network with the episode The Ed Touchables / Nag to Ed, and I was right there the night it aired. In fact, a lot of these episodes I remember watching the night they premiered. The animation and art, particularly in this season, has that very ugly in a good way art style that only the crew at AKA Cartoon could pull off successfully. The studio has a lot of strong artists: Scott Underwood, Joel Dickey, Lee Waldron, Corey Toomey, Jim Miller, and even artists from the digital era like Sabrina Alberghetti and Raven Mosley. Also, this is the season where you notice many drawings that will end up being clip art and stock poses for merchandise. We can't forget the writing team led by Jono Howard. I got to talk to him over Facebook recently to ask what the writing process was like. He had this to say: "Well, for starters, there was no writer's room. I wish. The only writer in the studio was me, usually brainstorming story ideas consisted of me calling Mike Cubitt, who lived in LA, and talking on the phone with him. That's how most of the stories got figured out, just me and Mike talking it out. The first step in the writing process was a premise. A premise was a 2 or 3 sentence story idea. Those ideas came from me or Mike, or sometimes one of the storyboard artists would have an idea and come over to tell me. I would make a list of all the story premises and then give them to Danny for his approval. If I give 20 premises, Danny would usually choose 2 or 3. It was not a good rate of approval. He sometimes refused every single premise, and we would have to throw them out and start over again. Once a premise was approved by Danny, it was written up as a 3-page outline. There were no scripts for this show other than the half-hour specials and the movie. All of the regular episodes were 3-page outlines, because Danny wanted it to be a board-driven show, not a writer-driven show. A true cartoon. That makes a huge difference. Obviously, we would write and rewrite the outlines over and over and over again, sometimes 6 or 7 completely different versions, until Danny approved it. Then, 2 storyboard artists were assigned the outline. They would draw the whole thing out, panel by panel, then they would present the storyboard to the entire studio. Yes, the entire studio, including the receptionist, and take everyone's notes. Then they would redraw it again. This process would go on until Danny finally approved the board. When it was all done, the last thing he would do is write the dialogue himself. Danny pretty much wrote every line of the show himself. Sometimes we would get a line of dialogue though, but rarely. There are a lot of premises that Danny liked at first, but they'd hate it later. Some were even submitted to Cartoon Network and approved by them, but Danny disapproved them later. It's so long ago, I can't even remember what those stories were. It was hard work, but it was fun. Every show I worked on afterwards seemed shitty in comparison. Probably because they were shitty, which is a shame. The Ed-Touchable centers on the Edge trying to find out who's taking everyone's stuff, as they advise a plan to catch the quote-unquote serial toucher, which the suspect is Johnny 2x4. This is one of the few episodes where the Eds win and get out of a situation they caused unscathed, albeit very briefly. I love the way everyone is introduced in this episode. We get a feel of their personalities from the jump. Double D is a neurotic neat freak who wants everything in order. Eddy is a mischievous prankster. Ed is an oaf who loves monster movies. Sarah is a brat who throws temper tantrums. And Johnny is the weird kid. There are some odd pilot/first episode isms here that won't be seen in the series again, like Ed speaking in coherent sentences, Double D has a crush on Sarah, and Eddy calling Double D Ed as opposed to his nickname. Nag to Ed features the first appearance of the Kanker sisters, who become the main antagonists of the series. A majority of the episodes end with them having their way with the Eds, even when they're introduced halfway into the episode. Personally, I much prefer them as bullies than creepy stalkers. It doesn't happen often, but it is satisfying when they get their comeuppance. We also get the first mention of Eddy's brother, who will become an ominous, mysterious figure that will be mentioned throughout the show, until finally appearing in a movie. The voice actors, as we all know, do an excellent job of bringing these characters to life. Much like other shows like The Simpsons or even Cat Dog, Ed, Edd n Eddy makes a great use of his limited voice cast. I already mentioned the Ed's voice actors, but also Kathleen Barr, Ern Fitzgerald, Janice Jod, Peter Kellemus, David Paul Grove, Gene Forgey, and Keenan Christensen deserve their flowers as well. Season 1 has some all-around bangers. You got Pop Goes the Ed, where the Eds crash Naz's sprinkler party and lose their swimsuits. Look Into My Eds, where Eddy hypnotizes the kids. It's Way Ed, where the Eds try to hop on the latest fads. A Glass of Warm Ed, where Eddy and Double D tries to stop Ed from sleepwalking and eating everyone's food. And Exaggerate, where Eddy lies to Kevin about breaking his window and blaming it on creatures called the Mucky Boys. Some of my favorite episodes are where the Eds just act like regular kids. Like in Dawn of the Eds, they're just hanging out in the junkyard imagining they're in a sci-fi movie, or goofing off at the beginning of Know It All Ed from Season 2. Even something as simple as trying to pop a balloon in the Season 3 episode Ed, Ed in the Way. The funniest episode in this season, in my opinion, is A Boy and His Ed, where the Eds try to suck up to Kevin so they can get jawbreakers from him, even going as far as to try to steal them by digging into his garage, but somehow ending up in his bathtub with him in it. I don't know, cartoon episodes with characters trying to sneak in somewhere or steal stuff and failing will never get old to me. The Season 1 finale, Button Your Ed / Avast Ye Eds, aired June 11, 1999, and it was the first new episode of a CN show to premiere on a then new block, Cartoon Fridays. New episodes were moved from Mondays to Fridays for the rest of the show's run. Ed, Edd n Eddy became a huge hit for the channel, especially with kids. It became one of the network's top-rated shows. Right away, the Eds became icons and a welcome addition to the Cartoon Network lineup. Ed, Edd n Eddy was never the merchandising juggernaut Dexter's Lab and especially the Powerpuff Girls were, but the show did have several t-shirts, video games, DVDs, comics, and a Cartoon Network line, and fast food tie-ins throughout its run. I remember music videos like My Best Friend Plank and my personal fave, The Incredible Shrinking Day, with more stylized animation, where the Eds are shrunken to doll size by a very creepy looking Sarah. There were several marathons. One of the earliest I remember was Boy Girl from 1999, an 8-hour marathon of Ed, Edd n Eddy and the Powerpuff Girls episodes. Another was The Ed's Day Off from 2004, which I recorded on a VHS back in 4th grade. I remember the bumpers were in the style of MTV's Jackass. Speaking of which, the Eds would get their own set of Cartoon Network bumpers, usually made by the AKA cartoon team. Side tangent, it's always funny when outside studios handle the characters and promotional material because you can tell they aren't familiar with the show. Sometimes there will be out of character moments and more often than not, they will be hilariously off model. The Eds became part of CN events / blocks. Double D and later Ed and Eddy will become one of the many hosts of the Friday night block, Cartoon Fridays.
I'm Ed, that's with 2 Ds, and I'm hosting tonight.
Hey, how many times you gonna let that disc fall on you, Double D?
Oh yeah? Well, what kind of imbecile keeps throwing the thing when it keeps smacking you in the back of the head?
Permanent gold, little man.
Oh.
It's funny considering in Canada, where the show is made, the cast didn't even realize how popular it was in the States. According to Samuel Vincent, we weren't super aware of what a hit it was. It only aired in Canada for 13 episodes on Teletoon, and then no more. The internet wasn't crazy in the early 2000s like it is now, so we became more aware when we traveled abroad and talked to other people who had Cartoon Network or received fan mail. The CCF bumpers were fun. We recorded them up in Vancouver, where we live, so we didn't really interact with the CN show actors, but they were fun to do. Of course, not everyone was a fan of the Ed Boys. Terrence Biggs from Animation World magazine wrote an infamously scathing review when the show premiered, calling every episode filler and criticizing the art style, though fans of the show responded with their support. Season 2 premiered with a total of 13 episodes from November 1999 through December 2000. Season 1 is iconic, but Season 2 really was where the show found its footing. Everything is much more refined here, from the characters to the animation to even the humor. Unlike other cartoons from this era that relied on pop culture references, Ed, and Eddy's humor mostly consisted of clever wordplay and classic Tex Avery style slapstick. Starting with this season, the show incorporated more fourth wall jokes, which became a hallmark to the series.
Does this guy sleep through the whole show?
I think I've lost about 10 pounds this season.
I'd swear, but standards won't let me.
There were many highlights in season 2, like the surreal episode 1 + 1 = Ed, the episode where the Eds dare each other to act like one another, or where the Eds find a key, even episodes that could be found on holiday compilations, like the memorable Fa La 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 Ed. Season 3 would up the ante. It seems like they were always topping themselves with how far they can go. I love the more character-based stories this season, like Rolf getting homesick for the old country and Wish You Were Ed. We even see Jimmy's dark side in a controversial two-parter, If It Smells Like an Ed. Of course, the bizarre episodes are a lot of fun too, like Once Upon an Ed, a Rashomon-style episode where the Eds explain how they got into Johnny's wall. Season 4 is weird, and I'm mostly referring to a sporadic airing order. See, it debuted in September 2002, with the first 3 episodes airing from September to November. Episode 4 aired in August 2003, 5 through 6 aired in November as part of the November premieres block, and 7 through 12 aired from January to February 2004, as part of the New Fridays, which I originally thought was a new season. The season finale didn't air until November 2004, which was the episode Take This Ed and Shove It, where the theme is growing up. While getting hit on the head while retrieving jawbreakers, Eddy wakes up in a distant future where everyone is old. It's hilarious seeing everyone as senior citizens. My favorite running gag has a cane that constantly appears, with Eddy throwing it away. This was the last episode to use cell animation, and originally the series finale, until popular demand led Cartoon Network to renew the show for 2 more seasons. 3 holiday specials were produced before the new season: a Christmas special in 2004, a Valentine's special in 2005, and a Halloween special, also in 2005. Season 5 marked a significant change to the show. While Ed, and Eddy was always known as a summer show, this season was set during the fall, and a majority of episodes took place at school, introducing the Valentine's special. I'm not sure how everyone else felt about this change, but I didn't mind. It was a good way to shake things up. I feel like there's a lot you can do here, especially with how these characters will react in a setting like this. Though I do think there were some limitations in some aspects, due to the series famously not having any adult characters. And it is kind of funny how there's only 12 kids in this whole school. Unlike other cartoons like Dexter, Powerpuff Girls, and Johnny Bravo, where the final seasons were universally regarded as the weakest, Ed and Eddy never really had that problem, at least for me. With that being said, there are some duds, like the episode Too Smart for Ed, where Ed wins the school spelling bee for spelling gravy, and for some reason he's now the school genius as Eddy scams the kids into having Ed do their homework for them, and yet they're surprised that Ed, someone who they've known for years, caused them to fail. One of the more controversial episodes this season was Smile for the Ed. This episode does something I really don't like in most later episodes, where it's a humiliation conga for Eddy, and at rare times he's completely innocent, and it gets a bit repetitive. He doesn't even scam anyone in this episode, all he wants to do is take a good picture so he can get his brother's room. This is the only episode not directed by series creator Danny Antonucci, instead directed by storyboard artist Scott Diggs Underwood. Honestly, there are more gems in this season than there were duds. My favorite episodes were the ones where the Eds and Johnny try to break out of school, the opener where summer ends and school starts, and the finale, A Fistful of Ed. Now this episode aired as part of the Best Day Edder Marathon in April 2007, which showed every episode in chronological order, hosted by Danny Antonucci. He would give facts and talk about some of his favorite episodes. Most of you remember this was heavily built up as the final episode of Ed, Edd n Eddy. It has Double D being mistaken as a tough guy after several misunderstandings, making the whole school fear him. Jimmy helps him restore his old image, while Eddy takes advantage of Double D's new status. And Ed is depressed he lost one of his closest friends. Final scene has the Eds reunite after Double D gets beaten up by Jimmy, and Eddy, who's been the biggest prick throughout the whole episode, defends Double D from the cankers. They all eat their hot dogs happily, with Eddy being slightly irritated. And that was it. A perfect ending to an iconic series. Just kidding, a month later a new episode aired.
So that was a fucking lie.
The Eds Are Coming aired as part of a special crossover event on Cartoon Network May of 2007. It was a night of alien-themed premiere episodes of Foster's, Camp Lazlo, My Gym Partner's a Monkey, and Billy and Mandy, with the Eds making small cameos in the other shows. I don't know if TV shows still do this, but there was a time where networks would take some of their most popular shows and do a night of premiere episodes all with the same theme and crossing over with each other. The most famous of these would have to be NBC's Hurricane Sunday, where the Golden Girls, Empty Nest, and Nurses all had hurricanes in their respective shows. Though if you're my age, you might remember That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana on Disney Channel. But back to the Eds Are Coming. It's winter in Peach Creek, and the kids think aliens have invaded the suburb and taken Rolf, so it's up to them to gear up and save him. The episode itself is just okay, but the main standout is the opening dream sequence, especially when Jimmy's nightmare begins. There's so much fun, dark imagery. The angles, the shots, the camera work, the visuals, the music. It feels so cinematic. Would you have ever think you would see this in an Ed, Edd n Eddy episode? I love these war-of-the-world type alien spaceships too. Of course we find out the aliens in question are Rolf's relatives from the old country. Even the ending is hilariously grim. In June of 2008, the short-lived 6th season aired with one episode, May I Have This Ed / Look Before You Ed, though on Max and a complete series set, it's usually lumped in with season 5. Given how the first 4 seasons took place in summer and 5 took place in the fall, I assume 6 would have been winter themed. It's a shame they didn't finish. I would have loved to see what they can do with a winter setting. It's a good episode, mostly May I Have This Ed, which has the school dance coming up, with apparently no chaperones, and Double D being shy to ask the girl to dance. There's good character moments here, like Eddy encouraging Double D the way he knows how, and Double D getting a chance to dance with Naz. Look Before You Ed is a bit of a meh entry in the series. I don't remember anything about this episode except how the Eds are punished.
Hey! I don't gotta go anymore!
So this is how our Ed story ends, on a 7:30 time slot on a channel going through its first dark age. The last time the world will ever get a chance to watch the antics of the Ed Boys. Or would it?
In case of movie break glass.
Bingo! A peanut?
Cheap movie.
Suck 'em if you got 'em. Ed, Edd n Eddy are back.
When Ed, Edd n Eddy aired its 5th season in late 2005, a 6th season was ordered as well as a movie, which was hinted at on one of the bonus features of the 2nd season DVD.
You know, everybody always wants to know what's underneath Double D's hat, but you know what? You ain't gonna find out until we do the feature. So write the card, tell them you want a feature, and we'll do it. We'll show you what's underneath Double D's hat, and believe me, you won't be the same.
Instead of working on both, Danny Antonucci decided to shorten the 6th season to focus more on the movie, which according to one of the writers, Mike Cubitt, was originally slated for a theatrical release.
But I do remember that there was a lot of buzz around it, and especially because Cartoon Network were talking about it being a theatrical release. So that was a huge, like, whoa, like I get to be part of making a movie like that. That's like the next level, like of what we do, right? We were used to writing, these episodes for television, but a movie seemed like a grand, huge undertaking. It was very, very appealing.
This is interesting because I wouldn't think CN would even try to do another theatrical release after the failure of the Powerpuff Girls movie, and especially after the disastrous promotion for the Aqua Teen movie. The result was a series finale TV movie, Ed, Edd n Eddy's Big Picture Show. First off, I love the way this movie opens. We see quiet shots of the cul-de-sac, no music or anything, just ambient noise. We know something has to be up. Then, hard cut to the aftermath of the latest Ed scam gone awry, which afterwards, we see the Eds frantically packing their things and planning on leaving town, already you're at the edge of your seat and wondering what's going on. I think it's clever they never explain what the scam was, rather than leaving it up to the viewer. We just know whatever happened, the Eds are in deep shit. And the injured cul-de-sac kids don't want to pound the Eds like usual. They are out for blood. The beginning and ending of the movie are probably the best parts of the film. After a thrilling chase involving Eddie's brother's car, the Eds wind up in the desert. Eddy decides to lead his friends to his brother's house, for safety. Only problem is he doesn't know where he lives. So the Eds set off to find Eddie's brother's place. The kids, meanwhile, are furious the Eds got away, and they band together to find them, so they can get theirs. But not if the Kangaroos have anything to say about it. So the movie is pretty much a road trip, which is fine by me. I love road trip movies. It's nice to get some new locations here. In a show, we're usually stuck in a cul-de-sac or at a school, but we get to see a desert, a field, an abandoned gag factory, a swamp, and a carnival where Eddie's brother resides. All very atmospheric and well designed. Another thing I love about this film is the ante is definitely upped. The Eds find out their scam went too far and need to escape. The relationship between Double D and Ed and Eddy is put to the test. The famous scene is during the quicksand sequence in the swamp, where Double D believes he lost his only two friends in the world, only for it to be an immature prank, which caused Double D to rightfully blow up at them. We see a different shade of Eddy too. His aggressive behavior over the years comes from a need of wanting to be liked, and also from the abuse of his older brother, who finally makes his appearance. He's played by the show's voice director, Terry Klassen. During the last act, the kids see Eddie's brother, someone who they admire/fear for years, for the monster he really is, and come to his defense when he hurts him in Double D. He's defeated by Ed, who knocks him out with its trailer door. The funny thing is, this ending wasn't even supposed to happen. Eddy would have lied about his brother's existence after all these years, causing Double D and Ed to finally abandon him, leaving him in the wrath of the kids. The cops would have showed up to arrest the kids for all the damage they caused, and the film would have ended with all of them in the back of the police car. Danny didn't like how dark this ending was, so he had it changed. The writers weren't too happy about it because they were proud of this original ending. The kids forgive the Eds, maybe a little too fast, but I get it, we need to wrap things up. And for the first time ever, the three outcasts finally get what they always wanted: acceptance. As the movie ends with the cul-de-sac kids cheering and singing while carrying their new friends, and the Kankers preparing to do Lord knows what to Eddie's unconscious brother, the film closes with Double D labeling the screen with "The End," a nod to the first episode. Big Picture Show aired on Cartoon Network Sunday, November 8th, 2009. It was accompanied by an Ed, Edd n Eddy marathon. Now, this was during an interesting time during my history with CN. I started to lose interest in Cartoon Network, not because I was getting older and I thought I was too good for cartoons. I think I was a sophomore in high school at the time. But it was mostly because I wasn't really liking what the channel became and thought it was a betrayal of what CN stood for. Keep in mind, this movie came out a few months after this bomb, so it goes without saying we were still in the dark ages. I think I was watching Adult Swim more than I was watching the main channel, but I did tune in once in a while to watch reruns of older CN shows, Tom and Jerry shorts, a Scooby movie of the week, and most notably, when they brought back the Looney Tunes. I was all over that. And especially Big Picture Show. I remember I didn't get to watch it when it first aired. I think I was on punishment, though I did get to sneak and record a movie on a VHS tape the second time it aired. And as you can imagine, I loved it. It wrapped up everything nicely, and it was the end of an era. the true end of the cartoons, despite the fact that CN abandoned that moniker in 2004. And with it, it remains Cartoon Network's longest running original series. And I know most of you will bring up Teen Titans Go, but to clear that up once and for all, that's a Warner Brothers property and not a CN original. Sadly, this never got a home media release. It's not even available on a complete series box set. And it's also kind of telling, whenever you search this movie, one of the first things that pops up is a fan art poster by Kevin Lordy. And with that, Ed, Edd n Eddy was over. AKA Cartoon was dormant the next few years, reruns were off and off to CN's schedule, and a cast and crew moved on to other projects. Tony Sampson, voice of Eddy, retired from acting to work in the oil sands and eventually becoming a musician. Sadly, it was revealed on the Cartoon Chronicles podcast, Sampson was threatened to be blacklisted by the voiceover agency he was under because he asked for a raise, which led to him quitting. Super shameful on the agency's part. I'm glad he was able to stand up for himself and not get jerked around. Tony, you the man. Danny Antonucci, meanwhile, has been having trouble getting projects off the ground. Danny has always been outspoken about his displeasure in the animation industry in recent years, and I'm wondering if that has anything to do with it. In an interview with Animation Magazine, he mentioned spending 2 years developing a Lupo the Butcher TV series for Netflix, only to be asked to change it to PG-13 at the last minute, which Danny refused. This new series would have expanded more on the Lupo character and introduced some of his family members. I'm actually surprised Netflix was interested to begin with. I won't deny Netflix has become a perfect home for creator-driven animation, but I feel this would have been more at home on Adult Swim, and I think they would have taken more of a chance on this sort of irreverent art style and tone. Danny also mentions being approached by Warner Brothers to do a Scooby-Doo show, but Warner's legal department canceled it after a year. He doesn't give a time frame for this, but I'm wondering if this was an early version of Be Cool Scooby-Doo before Zach Moncrief and company came aboard. Who knows? One pilot Danny was working on for a potential TV series was called Snot Rocket, released in 2017. It's about a dog who looks suspiciously like Butch from the Tex Avery cartoons and his owner, a little boy with an overactive imagination, as the dog constantly has to get him out of trouble. I can see this easily airing on CN or even Nickelodeon if it did get picked up. The fast pace might be a little too much for some viewers, but the surreal visuals are nice and it's certainly entertaining. The same year Big Picture Show was released, the Eds and the Kankers were playable characters in a multiplayer online game, Cartoon Network Universe Fusion Fall, with the voice actors returning, with the notable exception of Eddy's voice actor, Tony Sampson, who long retired by then. Instead, he's voiced by James Arnold Taylor. Now, James Arnold Taylor is a phenomenal talent, and he does the best he can, but honestly, there is only one Eddy, and you can't imagine him being voiced by anyone else. Also, some of the lines here I just don't see Eddy saying.
Oh no, you didn't!
The Eds would appear time to time in Cartoon Network specials and promos whenever the channel celebrated an anniversary, usually in non-speaking cameos. In 2014, Ed, Edd n Eddy appeared alongside Dexter, the Powerpuff Girls, Ben 10, and Samurai Jack in a Cartoon Network crossover comic, Super Secret Crisis War. And yeah, the one thing that bugs me about this is that the Eds are poorly drawn and out of character. Double D saying dudes is probably the most surreal thing ever. In 2021, the voice actors for the Eds made an appearance together for the first time in years on the What's in My Head podcast, now known as the Cartoon Chronicles, hosted by my good friend Julian, who's one of my favorite interviewers on this platform, and I hope his channel gets huge soon. This video garnered a lot of attention, especially from fans. Personally, seeing the three of them reminisce and doing the voices and banter off each other really puts a smile on my face. In recent years, the cast appeared at several cons like Nostalgia Con. I'm hoping one day they come to a con near me. I would love to meet them. Plus, the reels I see on Instagram with the actors doing shtick and character with other CN voice actors like Jeff Bennett, voice of Johnny Bravo, and Marty Grabstein, voice of Courage, made me very emotional. Fans such as the aforementioned Kevin Lordy have kept the fanbase alive with their own works based on the show, and one fan project I really recommend is Peach Creek, a web series that takes place where the series left off. Fast forward to years later, where the characters are now teenagers dealing with their own issues. Usually this more melancholy tone would be a turnoff for me, but the way it's done here is really intriguing. I was sucked in. The whole concept of the cul-de-sac kids as teenagers or older has been done to death by fans, but this feels more realistic. Somehow you believe these characters would end up here at this point in their lives. There's only been one full episode uploaded so far, with more on the way. If you're an Ed, Ed & Eddy fan, you owe it to yourself to check it out. So this is how our Ed story ends, with 130 episodes, 4 specials, and a movie. I remember watching this series when it first aired January of 1999, and I've been a fan since. It's a show that dealt with adolescence in a humorous way, and the characters are still relatable and iconic to this day. You could even see the series' influence in other works, like Workaholics and Clarence, the latter another CN show. Danny Antonucci is someone who I don't feel gets enough recognition from the mainstream nowadays. Evident with how many of his current projects were cancelled or just didn't happen. He really is an artist in every sense of the word, and I'd like to see him try again, maybe even go indie, since that industry is booming nowadays. Ed, Ed & Eddy is a solid animated series made by the right people at the right time on the right network that's still popular after all these years. It's a show that will be remembered for years to come, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Sun's up, I hit the floor. Shoes tied, I'm out the door. This is a clean shirt, I think it was one yesterday.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon for more updates, and like and comment on the video. It helps a great deal in the algorithm. Also, if you like what you saw today and want to support the channel, consider pledging to my Patreon. Yes, I finally got my old one back. For early access, exclusive vids, or requests for your own fantastic legacy of HANNA-BARBERA minisodes review. Hope you all stay tuned because I got more stuff coming your way. I'll catch you later.